Hey guys, welcome back to the BuzWeaver channel, and I have some rather breaking and troubling news. Now, if you follow my channel, you'll know that these are topics that we have talked about, but what's frightening about it is that those topics that are often perceived as sensational, exaggerated, and even by some conspiratorial is actually starting to unfold. What we have here from Remove Ron, a campaign effort against Ron DeSantis, is a classic example of several things. One, the same group of people who organized back in 2019 to change election laws, particularly in Pennsylvania, which was then kind of adopted in other states. Along with those particular changes the Democrats were involved in, which involved the election officials, but also, more importantly, it involved Trump detractors or never-Trumper Republicans to get some of these measures passed. Now, that in itself is a different topic. But what I want you to be aware of right now is there is a phrase that people are using. I started hearing it from Timcast, but it is a very appropriate phrasing, and that is ideological purge. And one thing within the journalist community or within the community of media is they have a tendency to feed off of each other. So in other words, when they have a certain tagline, buzzwords, phrases, analogies, they will all start using them. And what we have here from this particular poster, who is probably part of this ad campaign, is they take a little bit of element of truth, exaggerate it and sensationalize it, but what's even more amazing about it is that we are seeing already, you guys are probably already aware of the political tribes, but now we are at a point within the tribal battle that we have reached a point where these particular individuals, although they will accuse people like myself, moderates, centrics, Green Party people, conservatives, Republicans, and the right for doing this very same thing, but they are behaving in a very psychotic, cult-like, ideological mindset because they use truth in this ad to then twist that truth because their ideology and their philosophy now is so important to them that they are willing to get to this very psychotic point. Now, I'm going to assume if you're watching this video, you're probably a rational, cogent, common sense thinking person if you're watching some of my videos. Now, that doesn't include everybody, but you understand what I'm saying. I want you to watch this, and then I will comment on it here momentarily.
Final dissent. Please watch this short message from Governor Ron DeSantis on COVID-19. Thereafter, everyone on board will be required to comply with the state's Forever Purge.
Comply with the Forever Purge. Okay? So the language is introducing itself now. That's why I wanted to bring it to you. You're going to be hearing a lot of this purging or purge terminology. So of course, with any political ad, you're going to want it to be very sensational. You're going to want it to be very controversial. But isn't it interesting that the left can use this language and not be accused of sensationalizing, exaggerating, or much less conspiratorial by borrowing from an actual movie? If you haven't seen the movie The Purge, then you can check that out. I don't want to go into the details, but you can check that movie out and see its premise. And here is what they're doing by adopting this, and these are the same clever, scheming and conniving people that did the mail-in ballot law changes.
We are not doing any vaccine passports in the state of Florida. We trust people to make their own decisions in this state. We are not going to be bludgeoning people with restrictions and mandates and lockdowns or any of that stuff.
Think about that. So here's Ron DeSantis, a representative in Senate, sworn to the Constitution, telling people that they have the right to choose, the ability to know that they will not be bludgeoned, bullied, or made to take a procedure that maybe even some of them aren't even able to have due to medical reasons. You don't ever hear the CDC or even the media talk about the adverse effects. Yes, there's always adverse effects. The CDC will admit that. The CDC will admit, yes, there are adverse reactions to the vaccine. However, they don't go into a lot of the details. But here's what we do know, and you don't have to be a medical professional to know this. There is a breakthrough problem. In other words, people who are vaccinated are actually spreading the virus. So when you hear these medical professionals, very, very few of them, like on TikTok and stuff, say things like, we shouldn't be able, or we shouldn't have to treat people who are unwilling to be vaccinated. And that sends a very disturbing message that they aren't fulfilling their oath as medical doctors. So whether you're a drug addict, whether you're a gangbanger, whether you're a criminal, you are entitled, or at least the physicians are obligated due to their oath to perform, to provide you with medical treatment. Now, individual doctors can decide not to, but a hospital would be in violation of refusing a particular patient based on ideology or views. That's, part of why we have the ADA, the Americans for Disabilities Act, or the Americans with Disabilities Act, is to protect people who have conditions or ailments or illnesses or sicknesses that don't allow them to participate, in particular with this vaccine mandate.
As Governor DeSantis stated, while you're within state lines, you do not have to wear a mask. You do not have to get a vaccine. It is against the law for private businesses or schools to mandate masks or vaccines. And you have the absolute right to infect whoever you want.
Okay, you caught that, right? You have the right to infect whoever you want. So the idea here is, the extreme line is that if you choose not to be vaccinated, if you decide, listen to me very carefully, if you decide to exercise your constitutional rights, it is the interpretation of these individuals, or Joe Biden, or the left, or whomever, that you are in fact intentionally and willfully trying to spread a illness to other people. So as you go about minding your own business, going about exercising your freedoms and liberties under the Constitution, your very exercise of your rights is now seen as a purge of trying to infect and harm other people. Absolutely absurd.
Whenever and wherever with COVID-19. Thank you for traveling with us. And please, enjoy your Forever Purge.
There you go. Again, Forever Purge. It is absolutely stunning. Your worst fears come true. See, this is all saber rattling. This is all fear mongering. And when President Trump was in office, we constantly heard from ideologues, from activists, from Black Bloc, from BLM, from Antifa, that he was a tyrannical, fascist dictator. But they could never give an example. They could never give a tangible example outside of them being angry and miserable that someone they didn't agree with, someone they could not psychologically and emotionally reconcile, purely ideological. So they had a president in a position of power, in a position of influence, and they couldn't stand it because they want the influence and they want the power. When they were the smaller voices, when the left and the Democrats were the smaller voices, they kept saying, we need to be heard. We need to be heard. We need to be able to have our rights heard, our ideas heard, because we feel oppressed. There was nothing tangible there for them to point to and say, we are oppressed because of X, Y, and Z. Now, in real time with Joe Biden, we can point to things and see the X, Y, and the Z. Yesterday, if you've been following me on social media, I would encourage you guys, if you haven't already, to make sure you are following me on social media, because yesterday I posted this. From December 4th, 2020, from the New York Post, Joe Biden says he won't mandate getting COVID-19 vaccine or wearing mask. And then we also see in a town hall that Dr. Fauci did, Fauci told the town hall that people have a right to refuse because You can't force someone to take a vaccine. So there you have it. In this video, they have the gall to suggest that if you want to exercise your personal rights and your personal liberties, that because you are exercising those rights and liberties, you are a super spreader. You are a individual involved in the purge. In other words, your intent is to infect and or affect as many people as possible. Look at the language here. A dark dystopian story. Very reminiscent of, say, someone like Alex Jones, who has been purged from the internet, from being able to address things. And we kind of joke about this, that Alex Jones is probably freaking out that a lot of what he says is now actually coming true. And you can just see the selective language. And of course, they're going to show like deaths and COVID cases. Because if you remember, in the very beginning of the pandemic, the media was kind of playing it off. They were the ones playing it off. There was a town hall by CNN where they were not masked, and they were saying that this was a bit sensationalized. And you know why? That's right. Because Donald Trump was president, and he was beginning to tell people that we're potentially looking at a problem. If you started following my channel back when I started covering the Hong Kong protest, we talked about first we talked about the Hong Kong protest, and that during that time they were also doing military exercises in China. And ironically, some of the first people to be ill with this, what they called a mystery pneumonia, were people in the military. Very interesting. You don't hear a lot about that in mainstream media because this was just stuff that we had heard and were reading about in Hong Kong because there was no association. We couldn't put the potential illness together with what was the exercises of the military until after the fact. And then we started understanding because the Chinese came out and said that it's not person to person. You can't catch it from person to person. So heart stopping. Okay, so they're using all these buzzwords. Killer ending. You see, they're using all of this hyperbolic language. If I used it in some of my videos, and I tell you guys occasionally when I'm going to maybe exaggerate a bit or say something a bit sensational, that's just part of, I guess, the entertainment element. But you see here, I mean, breathe. It's really troubling that this sort of dialogue is going on. There it is, Forever Purge. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. But I was thinking three different things at once there. The thing about this is, we look at what the left was arguing about, as I said a moment ago, where they said they wanted a voice, right? I'm sorry if I didn't complete that. They said they wanted a voice because they weren't being heard, because apparently President Trump was heavy-handed and tyrannical. So now that they have the voice, they say, we are the voice. So now when others want to speak, when conservatives, moderates, Green Party, classical liberals, conservatives like myself, Republicans, or the right want to speak, we are not allowed. Have you ever wondered why there's so much censorship on the internet? Aside from the perceived misinformation, the left tribe doesn't want people to hear the other side. They don't want people to get ideas. They don't want people to use critical thinking about what their tribe wants them to believe. And so right here on Twitter, the echo chamber of ideological discourse, where the mainstream media hangs out. I know there was some sort of blackout, some sort of like a DDoS here yesterday on Twitter, and all of the media was freaking out because this is where they come together and in the collective hive mind are able to feed off each other and determine what stories to write. So with this, as I was saying, it looks like Joe Biden is doing his own ideological purge and pushing every button possible because I believe, or many of us believe, fellow commentators, that the Democrats are trying to wreak as much havoc as possible for the 2020 midterms, because it is possible that common sense, rational, cogent people can see what they're doing, and a lot of these Democrats that are causing all of this bizarreness are going to get voted out. Look at this. From Kevin McCarthy, breaking, Democrats just blocked a Republican motion to keep the IRS from spying on your bank account. They believe the IRS should have unlimited access to monitor your transactions. Their surveillance program is a flagrant invasion of privacy. And it's not only that. because we have talked about individuals like Lauren Southern. We have talked about Sargon of Akkad. We have talked about individuals who have been removed from Patreon, the ability for them to, it's a third-party platform that allows people to give them donations. So you have banking services, banking institutions that are shutting people down, like Laura Lomer and the new chair of the Proud Boys, Enrico Tarrio. They have both been banned from banking. It's so bad with Laura Lomer, she can't even use Grubhub because she has been kicked off all the platforms, as well as even many of these particular businesses, because what they do is the left get together in these little brigades that we call raid brigades, and then they go after and they approach companies, they approach businesses, and they approach platforms and say, hey, did you know you had a bigoted, homophobic, racist, Trump-supporting person that's part of your membership program? And then they get, and it's like the people don't even investigate it. I could give you examples, but believe me, it's there. I've seen it, and I've not kept any of the information, but it does happen. You can easily Google Laura Lomer. You can easily Google Enrique Tarrio and see where these banking institutions has prohibited people from being able to even do banking. So I thought this was a very pivotal moment, and thank you for the time, the energy, and the effort of taking a listen. And if you haven't already, appearing there on the screen, that would be the social media icon here on YouTube to click on and subscribe to the channel. And then, of course, as I mentioned, below this video, you can find the various social medias. And I will see you guys in the Friday vlog tomorrow.